Mo again, back with a series that no one asked for. And what did no one ask for? Of course, creating a TTRPG, I should say, from scratch. What is a TTRPG? For those that don't know, although if you don't know, you probably wouldn't be viewing this. Tabletop role-playing game. Now, for many years, I just understood it to be role-playing game, RPGs, but I think because of the evolution of computer games, and correct me if I'm wrong, it seems that there is a need to add tabletop RPG as a way to distinguish from pure game software RPGs. At least that's the way I see it. So if it's in book form, then I believe it's a tabletop RPG, and that's what I'm building from scratch. Now, after excuse the glare, it's a feature of mine. After trawling the internet for a while, as you do, researching topics, I did come across some interesting websites on this topic. Websites, channels, whatever. And there seems to be one key consistency amongst them, and that is that there is predominantly one or two initial videos, and then the channel dies. And it seems to be in the last 3 years. And I'm wondering potentially if it's sort of a period where Wizards of the Coasts were really reneging on their public license. It's certainly when I started to think and question games and what would make a good game, because it seems to be the industry is really dominated by one particular brand with one particular system, which I guess I feel kind of lost its way a little bit. And once that sort of thought crept in, I thought, well, what's the alternative? There are many alternatives out there, but I thought it's kind of been a long quest of mine to create a role-playing game or a tabletop role-playing game, and I thought I'd document the journey. That is the premise. So why? What's my desire to do this insane project? Because it is insane, let's face it. It's very difficult. Well, it's to make something unique. And also you think about all the content that's been created from those that have really took this on board. Things like, J.R. Tolkien, George Lucas, these are big names obviously in big universes. But I guess if you're persistent, something will come of it. It doesn't have to be notoriety or financial success, but just achieving it, I think for most people would go, hey, that's pretty amazing that you were able to do that. Why? Because it's very incredibly hard. So from my point of view, I felt that the modern games, you can see my notes by the way, don't mind. There were too many classes. That's one thing that I felt was very gimmicky, and it was just catering for players' desire to feel something new, but it kind of made things wishy-washy. And I think even the creators, was it Chris Perkins? I can't remember, but they mentioned that if they had it all again, they probably would have created a system with less classes. So it sounds good on the surface to have a lot of classes, but I believe that it can dilute it, and it just introduces really wacky elements. I don't know. It's sort of a mixture between fun and keeping a setting aesthetically consistent, which is what definitely is my ambition. So I thought, well, let's flip the concept on its head and create a classless system with skills, which is not new. There's a lot of games like that. Most notably Fallout, I think, fits into that category. And but I thought, but incorporate classes at the back end with archetypes or sort of skill packages that resemble a class, so that when whilst at the initial lower levels you're sort of exploring skills and masteries, at the back end you can then fall into a class, and so you've kind of mixed that aspirational part of it with experimenting with skills and whatnot. And the point being that in this system you can be anything you want, but you can't be everything. So the choices you make definitely play a crucial part in how you develop. So the project is at the moment in ecosystem building. What I mean by that is that I'm building the universe through a graphic novel. See behind me. That's why J City Studio is more the artistic side, fused with Die Roll Creative, which is my TTRPG sort of engine room, war room, so to speak. And so with the graphic novel, with the website, it's all fleshing out the world and doing it so it's a more active process rather than just sitting there world building. By creating visuals, by creating a story and a narrative, I'm exploring the world actively in a fun way, and it's great. So far, it's really worked really well, and it's sort of had the desired effect where I'm not just sort of, putting entries of lore, but really exploring the tension between characters and exploring the world, as you might if you were actually playing the system. So, and again, this is not a how-to video because I don't have any actual work to say I've built this. So I'm really just, again, experiencing this and just sharing it more as a open diary, sort of, or dev notes, in a way. So, but one of the things that I think is important with any project that you publish, and keeping in mind the word publish, it doesn't have to be, again, for commercial reasons, but if you create a work and you put it online and it's an intellectual work, then you're publishing. I'm not sure of all the copyrights rules internationally, but I believe they're territorial. So in Australia, when you put an intellectual idea onto the stage, onto print, onto media, it's and it's unique, it's instantly copyrighted by the creative, by the content creator. So it's important then to, when you have an idea, to publish it and to ensure that it's built, the IP is built on solid foundations. And the best way to do that is to create names in particular that don't exist. So prime exentia is not a word in the English dictionary. It hasn't been used before. It's my original idea. And whenever you're thinking of an idea, Google the crap out of it. So I spent a lot of time with all the even places within the map to ensure that it's not sounding similar to other works. Similarly, Die Roll Creative goes along those lines as well. So just thoroughly search the internet. That's the quickest way these days to ensure that there's nothing that sounds like it. And creating a non-existing word is the strongest form of intellectual property protection. So yeah, I think that's important because I've looked at a lot of projects and a lot of channels that probably didn't do that so robustly, and then later down the road there can be problems, even if it's a non-commercial project. If you're publishing on or if you're promoting a channel and there's ideas or names and places that are similar. So yeah, build it on solid foundations. And then one of the things I'm proud of is once you've done that, I say go into forums, publish under your name as much as you can, so that when anyone Googles die roll creative or Prime Exentia, they're just going to get my content. And that way, if anyone goes, oh, that Prime Exentia would be a really cool name for this, let's see if someone's using it, boom. There you go. So that's one of the things that I thought let's do early on. The premise of the game, really, I guess you think, well, people should know what a tabletop role-playing game is and why do it. But it's good to write down and remind yourself what exactly is the premise of your game. And briefly, the premise of this game is to have fun through interactions with the game master and other players as you imaginatively explore and interact with the dark fantasy setting of Arnvale. So it's not a game of winning and losing, and while death may occur, it's not the end, but rather a dramatic twist in the story, enriching the imaginative experience. Some of the themes incorporated and designed to achieve the goal of having fun are world exploration, teamwork, strategic combat, survival, questing, learning, self-improvement, and crafting. So it's important to realize an immersion. Probably should put that in there. I guess it's a given, but not all games aim for immersion, but certainly this one is a game. Oh, there it is. Role-playing and immersion. So it really uses the theatre of the mind to basically play out in a world that is unlike but similar to the real world, to experience fantastical feats. And most of us that play games of this nature know what I mean. But there's also the camaraderie and the fun and the experimental nature of role-playing games that is why they make it so popular, why they are so popular. And you can invest as little or as much time as you want. Whereas when you play a video game, you're sort of confined to. It's a different experience. I think it's a less social experience. So there are definitely a strong appeal even today with all the competing media streams and different products vying for your attention. Tabletop role-playing games is still tunes into a creative part of your brain that is really unique. And certainly I feel there's definitely people that don't understand it, and that's fine too. I've spoken to such people and they don't like being the active participant in a story. They like to say read books, but they're not interested in being an active player in a story, active storytelling. But for some reason, then there's people like me that love it, absolutely love it. So it's interesting. It's an interesting psychology. So before I digress too much on that, the setting I think is very important. I'm just going to read it. I hope this isn't too boring. But in theatre, the stage plays a crucial role in establishing the mood and tone for the unfolding scenes. Similarly, in your game, maintaining a consistent setting is essential, according to me. While players and game masters often enjoy adding homebrew ideas, which can greatly enrich the experience, it's important that these additions align with the basic premise of the world. Otherwise, they risk disrupting the balance and coherence of the setting. Again, possibly referencing to D&D, I was very much a second ed player or in the 90s, and I just really felt closer to the roots of D&D was that dark fantasy appeal. And it was really, you didn't have 58 classes, again, I'm more of a we'll get to this, but more low magic type world, gritty world. And I guess it really resonated with me. I'm not sure why, but it just sort of adding that sort of tone that you understood as the world, whereas I think with the it's almost like the commercial cycle now. It's no longer about maintaining that integrity. It's once you get a corporation behind things, you've got financial quarters reports and shareholders and profit margins, and so you've got to pump out stuff that's like a sugar hit, like a quick high. Let's just put a new class out there or a new glossy, and it just thins out the culture in my eyes, and it just becomes very superficial, and then it just destroys the immersion, and it just makes it a fun fest of artifices and fireworks and 58 different classes and new gimmicky spells, and everyone kind of is doing their own thing as well. Whereas I think the original role-playing game, you really have to band together to make things work. And just, maintaining that consistency in setting. Arnvale is definitely about that, or Prime Exentia, the Age of Convergence. Low magic, I think, is key to that, because magic, obviously magic, I use this term because it's a very popular term, and everyone knows what I'm talking about, but in the world of Prime Exentia, the word magic is replaced by Prime Exentia, and it's a completely different concept, my magic system, in terms of casting and learning, or how magic works externally. It's more of an internal process, and I call it calling and placement through the solution of anagrams, or words of power that unlock the manifestation of Exentia, which there are 5 sphere of. That's a very brief and quick tutorial of my magic system. I'll just read this passage. In Arnvale, Prime Exentia is a rare and enigmatic force. Its very existence shrouded in secrecy. Those who possess the ability to call or wield Exentia are seen as either sages or feared as dangerous outcasts. The manifestation of Exentia is always subtle, demanding immense skill and caution. Open displays of power are perilous, as they can quickly attract the suspicion and wrath of a fearful populace. So there's a couple of things there, and also ties to scarcity. I've made it resource based so that there's a limits amount of it, of Exentia, before you need to essentially recharge through a mystic fountain. And also, finding mystic fountains is a challenge that can often lead to adventures, because they are sort of nexuses of Exentia, which attract other dimensional beings and creatures that you may or may not like and have to deal with. And so by adding that scarcity, and also when you call Exentia, there's an exertion process that can damage. I mean, these are, again, are concepts that are out there, but it's there to basically ensure that magic is placed in a context where it's not just seen as trivial, or that you just can cast fireballs left, right, and centre. So it's less gimmicky in that sense, and you've just got to be more strategic. And keeping in mind, everyone has Exentia. There's not a class of magic users, and the style of Exentia can be also, for example, Talham is the more force-based, physical Exentia, so fighters can draw on that for particular moves and whatnot. So it's not just in the realm of wizards and robes and whatnot, although there are aspects of that, of course. And also, just the social impact of utilizing those things you need to be mindful of. So it makes you think strategically about the use of it, and how and when to apply it and how. So Yeah. And then, of course, there's fear of arcane practices and fear of non-human characters. So again, it's a very human-centric world, and it delves into the politics of the city-states, and the non-human classes or races are the Enveri and the Thumb Alhari, which I'll go into the lore in another time, but it's on the website. And so, as I'm world building and as I'm slowly approaching, to be fair, I have done a lot of work on the TTRPG. I've got, behind the scenes. I've already started compiling the look of it. I've done the mechanics, the skill progression, all those things. So it's not as though I'm starting from scratch. That's a little bit of a porky pie, but it's such a huge process that it might as well be. It's only been in the last 6 months. The idea has always been in my head, but in terms of actually putting pen to paper. Here I go on about free agency, which is really important as players, and how to build mechanics around that. And I'm using innate attributes and acquired skills. So again, not revolutionary, but everything in the system I'm working with is built on 7 attributes that go up to 7 ranks. And when you utilize, say, a blunt weapon, it tells you that the particular attributes you need to have to wield it, and then which attribute you're going to use the bonus for damage on. And the whole system, which I'll do a mechanics series. The whole system is based on a D6 dice pool, and my preference for the dice pool is based on the properties of dice pools, which is to flatten the probability curve to make it more predictable in a way, so that so players experience things that are still random but are more aligned as to what the predicted outcome was going to be, so that you're not bound by a single die roll of a d20 that often falls flat and just makes you think, well, why did I spend years training if at the crucial moment everything fails. And also because it's fun to in my opinion, it's fun to throw dice around. It's tangible and it feels like you're doing something. And because it's not just the attack die, but you have defense die that can negate the attack die, you've got an active participation in both attack and defense. So you might blitz an attack and score a lot of hits or a lot of successes, but they still have to go through the defender's defensive dice, and then the net result is damage. So it just feels like it's more of an interaction rather than a proposition of beating one number and then inflicting damage. It's all, these things are all about feel. And there's a few other concepts there. So here we are at the beginning of a journey that I started about 6 months ago, to be fair. When I revisit the work that I've done, it really does expand my mind. Sometimes it's actually a scary thing where you think, oh my god, what have I started? Again, this is why so many channels that do, you go, oh, that was done 3 years ago. Have they done anything? Not really. You go to various links, they're not there. And that's fine. I mean, who's to say that that's not me? It could very well be. It's one of those things that you take on and then realize just how big and scary it is. So, and some people have even, which crossed my mind, have toyed with the idea of open source an open source model. And that sounds great. You could really create something quickly with the internet. I suspect if you had the will. But what I think really tends to happen, especially in this space, is people can be overcritical. Not in a bad way, because everyone's in this space, everyone's a creator, and has their own opinions on everything. Some for a more mathematical background, some are more different opinions in setting, different opinions of how armor work. Does it restrict movement? Does it not? Definitely many opinions on dice systems. Specific hits. Do we have critical hits? So, in other words, there's like it's a crowded space. So if you try and open source it, I don't think it would work purely on the differences of opinion. There's no right and wrong in this space, but there is good and bad design. I'm not saying mine is good, but ultimately it's what the creator wants it to be, and then depending on the scope, will people play it? Who knows? But that's the other thing you should really think about when you're doing it is it just a project to do and then to put a link to people to play, or are you going to actively demonstrate how it's played and GM or DM sessions? Certainly I'm of the latter, so play testing is crucial, and also through play testing building a community, seeing whether it's fun, if it works, and giving a reason as to why people should play it by making it exciting, making it different, keeping those consistency in the setting, building a world over time. So those are the challenges, huge amounts of challenges, but it's fun. But it can be a lonely space as well, which is why it's good to do things like, this channel, just to talk about it, to get the ideas out there, to marinate, like a stew. God, I just thought that's such a buzzword. Why am I using corporate buzzwords? No marination. just a light frying on each side. And so yeah, let's see how far I go. There's so much to talk about, but also I need to keep in mind I've got to actually do it, so it's not just about the channel. But the channel is good to air out ideas and then go back to the drawing board, and it's really hard sometimes as well to sit down and do a rules document or to work on a mechanic. It's kind of how the graphic novel started. I just hit a wall with the building and I thought, let's find something else related to it. And then it just took a life of its own. I've done X amount of work with the graphic novel that I'm happy with. I'm up to the second issue. Well, I finished the second issue, starting the third issue, and I thought, no, I'll pause there because, again, it's all waiting on the Kickstarter, which is an exclusive to Kickstarter, so I have to give it till January. So I've got this space now, and so I'm going to fill it with building the website, building the lore, and chipping away at the TTRPG, and just hoping that with some videos come some sort of feedback or interest in it to stimulate the brain, and just make me think that it's just not an empty room, that there's people out there that enjoy the process as well, to share ideas and whatnot. So it's a bit long. I don't mind that. But if you made it this far, I commend you. And also, yeah, if you think you are up for these types of videos, do the usual thing, subscribe. I've got 4 subscribers. One of them is my son, so it's not really technically a real subscriber. Yeah, and we'll see where this journey leads to, and of course I'll have the other series with regards to the Kickstarter campaign and the graphic novel, but it all ties into the same universe. So it's really just opposite sides of the same coin. So I'll leave it there. It's been great. Take care, have fun, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye.